Welcome back to Eliminate the Gap, where myself, Norbert Christian, and Eric Kilbride here, we're getting ready to bring you our most recent episode, which we're very excited about at this present point in time. Eric, you want to go ahead and share a little bit about our guests today?
Absolutely. And just real quick, as I was just mentioning to Delmar, this is our 18th episode, which is crazy to think about, since we started at the end of January of this year, and we're already got, this will be the 18th one. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. It does. So we thought we would do something a little different for this episode. We've been talking to a lot of folks out there in youth development, leaders, people that have historically helped build the field and are certainly on the front lines, doing the hard work every day. And so we thought we would maybe step back and celebrate some folks and a little animal who is out there every day too, but in a different way, really bringing smiles to kids and adults and people who really need a pick-me-up during this time. And so we are going to be speaking to Julie Steines, Virginia Fryermuth, and we will have as a special guest their little 3-pound pet therapy dog, Norbert. Norbert is quite popular on the internet. Maybe some of the listeners out there are familiar with Norbert and have seen some of his videos. They've written several books, again, geared at pre-reading to early readers, all about this fun message about what can little me do and how can I continue to make a mark in society. And it's beautifully drawn. Virginia Fryermuth is the illustrator. Julie is the writer. And they're a mother and daughter team, which in and of itself is pretty cool. In the beginning, they self-published. So there's a lot of interesting things there that, from entrepreneurship. Virginia is a longtime teacher, been recognized as Teacher of the Year, both in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So education, again, working so much out there in the community. So we wanted to celebrate that and again, share them and their story a little bit with you. And then also maybe inspire you all to think, you know what, it doesn't have to be some big, huge, community-wide effort just to make some difference in a community. Sometimes it could be as simple as what does it take to make another person smile. So that's the guest this episode. We're looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. So they'll be with us here shortly. All right. So as promised, welcome back to Eliminate the Gap. And as you can see, we've now been joined by Virginia Fryermuth and Julie Steines. And that little guy in there that we talked about briefly is Norbert. And maybe some of you out there recognize Norbert. He just cracks me up. And so we'll get into why all three of us are while they're joining us this evening. So again, thank you all for joining us. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
You bet.
Well, I'm going to kick it off here. And just, first of all, thank you. And Julie, so what inspired you to begin doing pet therapy with Norbert?
That's a great question. So this goes back about 11 years. No, 12 years, Norbert. He's 12.5. And Norbert was a puppy, and I lived in Boston, Massachusetts at the time. And I took him everywhere because he was tiny. I mean, he's small now, but back then he was like a handful. So we were in this eyeglass store shopping around, and a woman in there looked at him and she's like, oh, he would make a great therapy dog, because he was so just like calm and seemed really comfortable in different situations. And I had never even heard of that before. So I kind of like went home, looked it up, and thought, wow, that would be a really nice thing to do. And I kind of envisioned visiting people in like nursing homes or hospitals and so forth. And so that kind of kickstarted everything. It was just unexpected and changed the trajectory of my entire life, really.
Well, for sure. And and just knowing you when you got Norbert, you always knew there was something special about Norbert, and maybe at that point it hadn't revealed itself what it exactly was. So that's pretty cool. Not surprising that somebody would have approached you in that way, because so just for those out there, and again, so much of our listeners are folks that work with young people, work out in the community as teachers, as volunteers, as frontline youth workers. What's involved in getting a pet certified? I know we see, lots of emotional support animals, but I know this is a whole different kind of level.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. So it is like a completely different thing. So we're considered a registered therapy animal team. And there's all types of therapy animals. There can be cats and birds and horses, just gerbils, whatever, rabbits. Anyways, so there's several organizations. We're registered with one called Pet Partners, which is great. And you have to kind of get re-registered every 2 years. But it starts with passing several different tests. There's like a written test, and then sort of like a obedience. That's not really the word I want to use, but type test for the animal. And so Norbert, I trained him myself. I have no experience in dog training, but he's just like, as you can see, pretty chill, very smart and motivated by food. So he passed all the tests. And that's when we started volunteering. I should also mention though, you guys, that this is, I think, really important, that the animal should actually just really enjoy like being around people and in that type of environment, and also be predictable, because a lot of unpredictable things happen when you're in different situations like that volunteering. So that's it's like a little so that was the path that we chose, and we've been with Pet Partners since I think 2011.
Wow, pretty cool.
I was like, hey, that test word, it scares so many people out there. So hey, great job with that, Norbert.
Like, I got this.
That's awesome. Well, we got a great story kind of going here, so I want to kind of get into a little bit more. Is there one moment that you can point to when you first decided to kind of do a book, or what really kind of, how did that come about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was sort of like a dream of mine since I was little, to publish a book with my mother as the artist, and myself being the author. And we thought Norbert's story of kind of finding his way in the world and his special gift, and being a therapy dog and making people smile would translate beautifully into a children's picture book. So that's kind of where it started.
Right. And I remember leaving Julie's apartment one day in Boston right after she had gotten Norbert, and thinking this must seem like an awfully big city for this little tiny dog who had moved from a farm, I think, from a farm in the country, more rural setting. And I began to think, what kind of question might he be asking himself right now? And, what can little me do came to mind.
Yeah.
And, as I walked through the Boston Public Garden, I started seeing a lot of other animals in the park. There were squirrels, and there were pigeons, and there were ducks and ducklings. And I could imagine Norbert walking through and looking at all of these other creatures and saying, they all seem to know what to do, but what can little me do? So Julie and I met in a coffee shop, and we actually sketched out the idea for the book on a napkin in the coffee shop right then and there. And that's what started it.
Wow. That all great ideas start on napkins or in garages, it seems. That's awesome. And I know it's been a special bond for you all to share throughout this entire journey. One of the things that we ask a lot of our guests is about influences, and my guess is asking Julie would be pointless, because she's sitting next to one of her influences for sure. But Virginia, for you, you're this amazing artist, and in fact, we're working on a mural just around the corner, and I know you'd love to see it, but there's artists inside there, and I showed them one of your drawings, and they're just like, oh my, So, you know, just a mad respect around the corner. But just who was it in your life that really encouraged you to take that talent and some of your other talents and kind of reach your potential in that way?
Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I think, you know, through the course of a person's life, we have many different kinds of teachers. And I've been blessed to have a lot of wonderful teachers in my life, whether they were family members or friends or teachers in school or teachers outside of school. So there's all different kinds of people that you can learn from as you journey on your life's path. And my first one was my mother, who first put a pencil in my hand when I was just a preschooler and taught me to draw. And as she was showing me how to draw little figures and people, I went to her and said, do I have to draw it just like you, or can I make up my own way of making faces and noses and eyes? And she said, oh, well, you can do it any way you want because you're the artist. And I thought that was just amazing. And I would spend hours and hours inventing faces and characters and all kinds of things, let my imagination run away with me. And I never lost that enthusiasm for creating and using my imagination. When I got into school, of course, my mom supported my work as an artist and my development. And I was fortunate enough for her to find me a teacher who lived around the corner from us, who was a professional painter, who agreed to take me on as a student when I was in junior high school and through high school.
Wow.
And with that influence, I was able to put together a portfolio that got me into art school. But because of that influence of that teacher and also my mother, I realized how much a teacher can affect a young person's life and can really change the course of a life. So I decided then that not only did I want to be an artist, but I also wanted to be a teacher and hopefully encourage that enthusiasm in other young people.
It's usually things like that, isn't it, Del? It's you know, and it's your mom first of all in this particular case, you know, recognizing and saying, no, you can be who you want to be, not too different than, you know, some of Norbert's themes, and then discovering just literally around the corner from you a tremendous resource that clearly was important. Quick little side question: did you name many of your characters as you were, you know, drawing your little characters?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wrote stories to go with them. I made handmade books, and I had all kinds of characters and figures, and it was.
Who was your favorite character, I guess is what I'm after, that you remember back in the day you loved to draw it over and over and over again?
I did a little story about an elf. I love this little elf that I drew.
And he was on a shelf. Okay.
I wish it was back then I had thought that. Yeah, it was a little elf. He was actually very good at math, and he could calculate all kinds of things, and wrote a story about him. But I remember illustrating it and coloring it all in with colored pencils when I was in about 4th grade.
I wish you still had that.
I know, I do.
Oh, you do?
I do still.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's you know, it's that kind of essence, you know, that you know, drives and propels many of us to continue to do the things that we're passionate about, and that's what one of the things we're trying to highlight. You know, so much of, I know you've Norbert spends time visiting the Children's Hospital out there in LA now that you all are out on the West Coast, and in nursing homes and schools, kindergartens, you know, places all over the place. And then, you know, much like the rest of us, COVID happened and kind of put a kibosh, especially going into hospitals and other places where folks are a little bit more vulnerable. Julie, tell us a little bit how maybe you all chose to combat that and still put Norbert out there in people's lives, especially when they needed him even more.
Yeah, that's exactly what we thought. Like everyone needs who likes Norbert needs him now more than ever, you know. And so we stopped volunteering at the hospital because the program was shut down. But it was really nice because they developed like a virtual program. So people from the hospital would go into some of the children's rooms with iPads, and they would FaceTime with like 3 or 4 dogs at a time, which was really nice and special. And I guess, you know, the children really love that. So that's something we did from time to time. And then we just kind of kept doing what we've been doing on social media, and people would write comments to us every time we posted something, a photo or video, whatever it was, like how much it meant to them. And we also started sort of like a little side project where we offered just some like free, like fun resources for kids to do. Like we made one of our coloring books completely free that people could download, and different activities, right? And so that lives on Norbert's website. And yeah, we just try to do as much as we can to stay connected to people, especially when they were, you know, not able to leave their houses, or all of us, I should say. So, right? Anything else?
Right. Yeah. I think that what resonated with people at this particular moment in time was the importance of kindness and of compassion and of mutual respect, the importance of home. And Norbert's message has been consistent over time, and people appreciate that he tries to make people smile. And one of the questions that we would always have for children when we would go into schools and do presentations is, what can you do to make people smile? We can all make somebody smile. What can you do to make people smile? And the answers that we would get would be just so creative and so wonderful, even from children as young as kindergarten. They would all know how to make someone smile. So I think in this particular time, when people were just dealing with so much and going through so much, it was just always nice to know that there's a way we can all think of making someone else smile.
And just real quick, Del, so one of the things I wanted to mention, because as much as during this past time, people were maybe not able to see Norbert in person, I mean, this is where the books and some of these other kinds of the social media, all these other ways that you've been able for folks to interact with Norbert come into play. And I just wanted to mention how incredibly generous you all have been in providing places with books and coloring books and calendars and things like that. It just, you know, again, to just share, because as Virginia said, at the end of the day, it's about what can we do to make somebody else smile. So I just wanted to celebrate that part of it as well. You know, for y'all doing that with Toys for Tots and just, you know, all down the line.
Yeah, you guys are both obviously very giving. So we just really, you know, thank you for that. But on that note, I know you guys have been volunteering for quite some time in that capacity and giving people smiles and making people happy. So what type of advice would you have for our viewers out there that want to do something similar in terms of volunteering?
Yeah, well, I can speak to like the pet therapy side. I mean, like I said at the beginning, if anyone's interested and they think they have a pet that would be great for that, I would say look at some of the organizations, like I said, Pet Partners. I think their website is petpartners.org. It has all the information you need for that avenue. And then do you want to speak to some of that?
Sure. And what I would say is that, and something that I've always told my students is that everybody has a special gift. Everybody has something that they love to do or that they're good at, something that is their own particular genius. And if you look for that thing that really brings you energy, something that uplifts you, and you try and think of ways to use that in the world to then also uplift other people, that can lead you towards directions to move in, to work with others and to share your enthusiasm for the things that you love to do.
Great.
You know, Delmar, we should really start trying to figure out what our creative genius is. We really should spend some time on that.
I think you found it.
Yeah, no, and I love that phrasing. That's really a great way to put that. So last question on this that we touched on it, and answer how you choose to, but there's a component of all of this that's truly special from my standpoint, and that's the fact that your mother-daughter folks, and outside of sitting in a coffee shop and being able to sketch out a book or what have you, talk a little bit about just that important part of being connected as a mother and daughter in maybe a way that's different than just a traditional role.
Well, I can start off with that. First of all, I feel just very blessed and grateful to be able to work with my daughter and to do what we believe is good work in the world. We take what we do with great responsibility. We know we impact people's lives, and that's very important to us. So we take that role very seriously. To be able to work side by side with my daughter doing that is just tremendously special. We started this from the ground up by deciding to actually form a company so that we could formalize the work that we do together as a mother-daughter business. We call ourselves a kind-hearted company because of that. But to just see all that she has done and how she has used her own talents in the world and how giving she is, just really does my heart good.
Good luck topping that, Julie.
I know. I'm like,
good luck. Yeah, but
she's
you're
very
not
articulate, and I'm kind of like, yeah, sure. No,
you're not off the hook though.
I know. No, I mean, there's really not much more to say than what she just said. It is every day. Like it's so much fun to be able to work together and such a creative capacity, and hopefully maybe inspire other mother-daughter teams to collaborate. So I don't think we ever sort of envisioned we'd be where we are. Can you finish that sentence? I don't think we really envisioned we'd be where we are today. You know what I mean? Just
sure.
From the start, it was just life-changing. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right,
well, what's up, Norbert? So it's so good of you all to give up your time for us today, to be able to again share some of what you all been able to do and how you've been able to do it, and more importantly, inspire some other folks to look within themselves, find their own creative genius, and say, you know what, how can I make somebody else smile? How can I give what it is that I have to give out in the community? And we may not all have cute little 3-pound dogs as our vehicle, but we have something within us for sure. And so that message is exactly what we wanted to be able to bring to the listeners today. Del, do you have a parting thought?
Well, I would just say myself that I think if you can change the life of one person for the better, even if it's for one day, then you have done a lot. So for people who look at large projects and businesses and say, well, what can little me do? I think that it's important to remember that we can all do something every day, even if it's just to change one person's life.
Cool. Yeah. And guys, keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing a great thing for many people, and we all need that right now, coming off of this pandemic, and we're still not through it yet, but that's what people need right now. They need hope right now with so much time that we've been apart. So just, again, keep doing what you're doing. We thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're so grateful for your support.
And you keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks so much. And we look forward to catching up with you later.